The Pioneer metagame is shifting as players play less Mono Red and Izzet Phoenix while picking up more Rakdos Midrange, Azroius Control, and Orzhov Greasefang. A spot in the metagame has opened up for brewers and new players alike to try out their own takes on what Pioneer might look like as we speed towards the end of August 2025 already. Now, I've combed through this weekend's Magic the Gathering online events and found a quadruplet group of pilots testing out the waters with different takes or entirely new brews to the format, all of which can be found with the full deck list in the description down below. Now, we'll go over what these lists are made of, how they look to execute their game plan, and I'll offer some advice on any tweaks that might be warranted if you decide to pick up and play these piping hot Pioneer bakes. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Pilot Davy Marias took a stab at porting a previous standard rotation menace into Pioneer with a 3-3 finish on Esper Raffine, a deck that defined standard just over a year ago. The deck's main focus is Raffine, Scheming Seer, which utilizes Connive to not only provide card velocity, but pump up its own threats by tossing some extra spells or creatures into the graveyard. Now, Pioneer versions of this deck in particular have really been digging into the vault for Esper-colored legends that either come back, like Dennick, Pious Apprentice, or have powerful effects that don't mind discarding the redundant copies too, such as Shieldred the Apocalypse. Now, in all actualities, the list doesn't look too far off from the standard version, save for some newer cards to the format, mainly Cecil Dark Knight, Dark Confidant, and Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. This powerhouse trio of black and slightly blue cards gives the deck a lot more threat density and card advantage than previous versions, while curving the humans into Raffine can provide a very quick Cecil flip, while Kaito can bounce him back to hand if our life total gets too low, and the death touch makes it so Cecil goes unblocked frequently enough. There are a few cute additions to the deck, with Deep Cavern Bat providing some creature-based disruption, same as the old standard version, so that you don't tax yourself with your own Thalia, Guardian of Thraben too frequently, as well as Elenda, Saint of Dusk, and Seamrip from the sideboard. Now, all in all, the deck is a powerful entry into the mid-range metagame of Pioneer, but I can't help but think that it could still be powered up with a couple of changes. Now, if you're looking at running this list, the mana base could use some cleaning, as 4 copies of Starting Town help flip our Cecil, but I'm wondering if it'd be better to play any Godless Shrines to begin with, alongside more copies of Watery Grave or Hallowed Fountain over other lands like Restless Anchorage or some of the fast lands. Now, 4 Plaza of Heroes also signifies that we feel like we have enough legends in the deck to run them, so I'm on board for also swapping out the Deep Cavern Bats and letting Thoughtseize carry the Disruption Mantle so we get some Mox Ambers into the board to be able to throw down a turn 2 Raffine after a turn 1 Cecil or Skrelv. Now, if we truly miss the bats, we can sideboard them, or Duress, over some of the cheeky fun-ofs like Urza's Ruinous Blast. Now, I'm also really tempted to leverage something no one else seems to be doing right now, which is the fact that Raffine is a demon. Literally, like card type, demon. Swapping Bob for Unholy Annex might have a slight tension with the Thalias, but overall gives us something to do with our mana in mid to late game while keeping our own life total buffered in combination with Shieldred, and the fact that the namesake card in the list is a demon that will work with the Annex. JTL005 gave their Azroius Control deck Yorion as a companion and loaded it up with a bunch of flickerable cards to provide advantage on the side as well as keeping the board clear from the opponent's side of things. Now, Cryogen Relic is the latest addition to the deck, combining with Omen of the Sea to have some permanent-based card advantage Yorion can blink later in the game, while a Singleton Pinnacle Starcage joined up with a playset of Temporary Lockdown to keep the board clear of early, aggressive threats. A package of counter magic consisting of 3 Steps Ahead, Dovin's Veto, and No More Lies fights threats on the stack, while both Supreme Verdict and Farewell fight pretty much anything else that can get through to the board itself. The deck still packs the quintessential control finishers in Pioneer, aka a pair of Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and the Wandering Emperor,
but also make space for 4 copies of Horned Lockwhale as an early bounce spell against aggro decks that can close out games from the Adventure Zone, as well as a singleton Ugin Eye of the Storms. Now, it's an interesting addition as Eugene's passive / enters the battlefield ability as well as its ultimate aren't actually able to be utilized by the entirety of the deck. But a high loyalty planeswalker that is a catch-all removal spell that draws a card and gains 3 life might just be a better Spine of Isha from the days of yesteryear. Now, sideboard has plenty of answer cards to specific decks, ranging from High Noon and Archon of Emeria for those pesky Cutter Phoenix decks, to 3 copies of Baze of the Bounding Spring in order to deal with low aggressive Mice package decks. Hullbreaker Horror even makes an appearance as a 2-of for potential mirror matches, as well as being a way to end games itself in even more mid-range grindy games.
Jund Midrange is always a fan favorite, and Pilot Xfile broke into the top 8 of a recent challenge playing a list that wants to utilize the new Goyf given to us by Edge of Eternities, Cosmogoyf. After all, what is a Jund deck without a Goyf? Well, Xfile took this list in a different direction, as Jund purists might be appalled to see 0 copies of Liliana of the Veil and Dark Confidant in the 75, despite all of the greatest hits being legal to play in Pioneer now. Instead, Xfile wants to utilize the 1-2 punch of Cosmogoyf alongside Demonic Bargain to have a 13 power Goyf as soon as turn 3 if you could play the Goyf on turn 2. And while that alone might not be enough to end the game in a single swing, a favorite old tech of Death Shadow players in Temur Battle Rage can quickly turn that into 26 power of trampling game-ending damage. Now, in order to get there, we still have plenty of Rakdos staples, from Blood Tithe Harvester and Fear of Missing Out, to find us our knockout combo with the blood tokens as well as the discard draw effects from FOMO, as well as Graveyard Trespasser to get us some extra cards into exile and keep us alive through aggro decks, as well as Sheoldred the Apocalypse to be a threat of its own if we don't have our Goyf. Now, Fable of the Mirrorbreaker pulls its weight normally, but can do double duty here by copying Goyfs to make an army of double-digit threats after flipping, while the green splash in the deck allows us to run Analyze the Pollen, a different take on the usual Traverse the Uvenwald effect in these decks that will also allow us to exile cards in order to collect evidence. Growing the Cosmogoyf, we can then use the Analyze the Pollen to find itself. Now, the sideboard looks like it's a mix of fun-ofs and staples, while cards like Abrupt Decay and Terra Sunder are sitting next to cards like Casualties of War, which I personally love. So if you're thinking of building this deck, there seems to be a lot of wriggle room on the side of what you could put in the extra 15. If you were getting tired of seeing the same Boros hammer list in your leagues, CrusherBotBG took the deck in a slightly different, more dwarven direction, albeit only to a 2-4 finish in a recent challenge. The deck took the normal package of Quarry Steel Cutter, Colossus Hammer, and the Leyline Axe, and paired the Trio of Trouble up with a package of dwarves to carry said equipments. Magda Brazen Outlaw, the OG printing from Kaldheim, makes sure turning dwarves sideways gives you treasures, while you're also able to use those treasures to tutor for whatever equipment you want later on in the game. Toolcraft Exemplar is a blast from Standard's past as a quick way to get a 3-2 on turn 1 so long as you have another artifact, something you'll be able to do quite easily with this deck. Now, Giat, King of the Dwarves, is not only a card straight out of the best Final Fantasy game, but a rummage effect whenever a dwarf or equipment enters, giving the deck a Kindred Matters SRAM analogy. Now, our last dwarf is a little higher on the mana curve, as Brunhor Battlehammer from the Forgotten Realms set buffs our equipped creatures and gives us a pseudo Pure Steel Paladin effect for the first equipment we slap on a creature each turn. Now, most of these dwarves are legendary as well, allowing us to keep the creature count high enough for Mox Amber to stick around as a 4-of that enables Cutter's double spell clause quite well. All of these dwarf-specific creatures also means we get access to a Forgotten Kaldheim card in Armed and Armored, crewing the 0 vehicles we have, but also suiting up a single dwarf specifically with any number of equipment we own at instant speed. Quite the combat trick. Lastly, in the main deck, we have the singular EOE Planeswalker, Tezzeret Cruel Captain. Now, Tez here lets us tutor for most of our equipment or artifacts in general, like our said Mox Ambers, and while if we ever get to its ultimate ability, plays extremely well with the treasures we have lying around from our Magda. Now, sideboard has lots of hate cards like Rest in Peace and Magebane Lizard, while Rebel Salvo is a potential 1 mana instant speed roast that can remove Indestructible from cards like Ketramos if we encounter it. Now, 2 copies of Reckless Crew are a cute tech card, as you can make a small army of dwarf tokens if you have enough equipment laying around that will then pick up and wield said equipment immediately. Now, this list looks like a fun draft 1 of the deck, as some of the dwarves might be a little underpowered compared to the normal Boros Hammer lists. SRAM Senior Edificer is still a dwarf after all, so the only thing Giat really has over him is Double Strike and triggering on dwarves entering additionally. Now, there's also Cole the Forge Master, which is another Kaldheim dwarf legend that could be tested out with the number of Kori Steelcutter tokens that get made, while it also recurs the non-token creatures we're playing if they hit the graveyard. Now, those are the lists I picked from just this past weekend. Have any of them caught your eye? Maybe I've missed something that you've been keeping tabs on as well. So either way, let me know down in the comments below if you're keen to sleeve up Pioneer this week and what you're going to be playing and why it's got you excited to play with. Now, while you're down there, you could also get me excited by clicking the thumbs up button to let me know that you're enjoying all of this Pioneer Magic the Gathering type content. Additionally, you can consider clicking the join button down below to become one of my members, who financially support this video specifically, as well as all of the videos on my channel through their membership. Now, in turn, they get perks like early access to all of my videos, members only written content, and Discord access to pick my brain about Magic and more. So if you want, you can click join down below or on my channel's homepage to help show your devotion. And as always, it'd be super easy to just tap that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on the latest deck techs, metagame analysis, and just in general, Magic the Gathering content from me. See you soon!